What's good, Shellitronnn here. You can call me Shells, and I'm back again with a brand new video. And today, I want to talk about a guy who's been just about unanimously reported as being the next defensive coordinator for the Panthers under Matt Rhule, who, as we all know by this point, is the new head coach of the Carolina Panthers. So far, he's the only guy who's actually confirmed on this coaching staff. We might retain some guys who are already here, but for the most part, I think we're going to see Matt Rhule bring in a lot of guys that he already knows, other dudes who have experience in the NFL. The guy we're talking about here in this video is Rhule-Snow, a guy who has over 38 years plus as a coach at the college level. He has some experience at the NFL level, but for the most part, he's had about almost up to 40 years in coaching. This guy's older, but he's not one of those dudes who's like stuck in his ways, kind of like having an old school mentality. He has changed his game up. He's seen how the game evolved. He's seen how the game has changed over the past, well, forever, honestly. And he's really made his defense a more modern defense. He got his first big coaching job in 1982 at Boise State. He had a couple other like smaller school jobs, D2, like D3 kind of things there. Fast forward to 01 and 02, where he was a defensive coordinator at UCLA. And there was a guy there who was his defensive line coach. His name is Matt Rhule. So you can tell, even as far as 18, 19 years ago, there was a connection between Matt Rhule and Rhule-Snow. These dudes know each other, but that wasn't the end of their working relationship. From 2013 to 2016, they worked together again, where Rhule-Snow was the DC at Temple, where obviously Matt Rhule was the head coach there. And then Matt Rhule brought him on again at Baylor from 2017 to 2019, and he was a DC there as well. So you can kind of sense a pattern here. Matt Rhule gets the job at Temple, brings on Rhule-Snow to be his DC. Matt Rhule gets the job at Baylor, brings on Rhule-Snow to be his DC. Matt Rhule gets the job as the head coach of the Carolina Panthers. So could the third time really be the charm? Will he bring Rhule-Snow on to be his DC one more time? Maybe. That's a big question that needs to be answered, but we also have to ask, what does Rhule-Snow do? What is his scheme? What does it look like? What can you expect out of a Rhule-Snow-led defensive unit? Well, you can expect more 3-4. Now, we did hear that Matt Rhule might be leaning more toward running 4-3. That I would kind of like to see come back. But then again, you have to ask a question about what will we do with Brian Burns, our first round pick from this past year. Look, Brian Burns is extremely talented, and he was underused, although he did get hurt. And then we did play a lot of mobile quarterbacks, so you couldn't run a lot of 3-4 on the team last year. But Brian Burns isn't really a 4-3 linebacker. He's not the guy you really want out there in the 4-3. And it's kind of weird sometimes to put him on the edge with his hand in the dirt in the 4-3 as a DE. So it kind of gets confusing if you don't run the 3-4. Then just how much can you actually use Brian Burns traditionally? It gets kind of weird there because you have to ask yourself, do you just play the way you're supposed to play and not put Brian Burns in as much? Or do you just stick him in there and say, look, Brian, your skill set might not be perfect for where you're at right now, and this might not be the best personnel for this defense, but go out there and make a play? And that could be what we see, since we might not be having Mario Addison back on the team next year. His contract is up right now, and we don't know if we're going to sign him. Are we going to sign James Bradbury? A lot of questions on the defensive side of the ball. So Brian Burns, who is already on the roster, is still going to be a big question mark, depending on whether we run 4-3 or 3-4. But we'll get to that when we get there. Rhule-Snow's 3-4 is very, very aggressive, especially from the DBs. And knowing that's important because it makes what Matt Rhule was talking about and hinting at before, where he said he wants to start on the defensive side of the ball and especially address the secondary. Rhule-Snow's defense relies heavily on great play from the members in the secondary. It's a 3-4 front where their base has 2 high safeties. But if you're not looking at 11 personnel, which is just 1 running back and 1 tight end, then you're going to see a lot of single high safety play, and you're going to see a lot of these guys out on islands. So it's a brief overview of what the defense is going to look like and what it requires. It requires a free safety that has elite speed, because you're going to be playing a lot of single high by yourself on an island. So you have to have range to go from sideline to sideline, and you have to be a ball hawk. You can't just be a guy who maybe won't lose the team a game, but also won't win a team a game. You gotta be a guy who can make plays and might be the reason the team wins 1 or 2 games in a 16-game season. And then go over to the strong safety. You have to be a guy who can play man in the slot. Whether it's playing the slot receiver or it's playing against a tight end, you have to be able to cover. You gotta be able to hit, but you also have to be able to have coverage skills. And look, I actually like Eric Reed, but Eric Reid is not good. I don't want to go to garbage, but the man is not good in coverage. He can tackle. He got 130 tackles this season? That's all good and well. And, some of those tackles came from the D-line not being good and the linebackers being out of position. So, the secondary had to pick up some tackles here and there. But Eric Reid, no matter how you feel about his tackling, whether it's good or bad, this man is not the first, second, or third name you want to call when you're talking about strong safety, so you feel confident in play after play after play in coverage. So I don't know that's going to lead us, but you do need to have a strong safety who can cover. Period. And then you need at least one cornerback who can lock down man one-on-one left on an island, because when you have single high safety, the safety might have to help out someone else. So you don't want to have to switch it up. Maybe one plays over here, one plays over there. You need to have at least one guy, at least one corner who you can trust enough to be on an island and say, please shut this dude down. This whole side of the field is taken care of. But you on this side, this is going to be all you. Now, right now, we technically still do have that one guy who can do that. James Bradberry. PFF kind of ranked him weird. His grading was a little bit weird. But we've seen from him over the last 3 years, he's done extremely well against the big three in our division, meaning Michael Thomas, Mike Evans, and Julio Jones. He has basically had them in a snuggie. Over the last 6 games we played, there's only been, I think, 2 even decent games out of those 3 guys, when usually they go crazy every single game they play. So I think James Bradberry might still stay on the team, although that's kind of, I don't know, kind of money looking for. He could probably be looking for an elite corner money, and one of these teams with a lot more cap room than us can probably scoop him for a price that we probably can't afford right now. So we got to figure out if we're going to keep James Bradberry, or if we're going to go to the draft to pick up one of these guys like Okudah, am I saying his name right? I don't even know. Or Christian Fulton if we trade back. Those could be guys, but it's kind of weird to, put the pressure on a rookie to guard those 3 names every year. And then you have Adam Thielen and Stephon Diggs coming next year, and Tyreek Hill. We play against the Vikes and the Chiefs next year. So it might be a really weird, hard schedule for a rookie to come into his first year in the league. But you need to have at least one lockdown man-to-man corner in this Rhule-Snow defense. And past that, you got to have a guy, a rusher, a stand-up dude like Brian Burns, who can guard the quarterback, who can tackle the runner, and can drop back in coverage sometimes. You don't gotta be the best guy in coverage, but you can't be a liability in coverage. And I think Brian Burns, with one more offseason of working on that, spending time in coverage, I think he could be that. And I really do think that's the one thing his game is missing, having at least an above average for a linebacker, for a rush kind of guy, coverage skills. If he can get to that level, he can be an elite player in this league. If not next year, then the year after that. Well, meaning this upcoming year, then the year after this upcoming year. You know what I'm talking about. Numbers are hard. But basically that's what you're looking at here. This is a scheme that requires high level of play from all the members in your secondary. You cannot have weakness in your secondary, and the pass rush has to be strong as well. Plug the holes up with the D-line and linebackers. You gotta do what you gotta do. But really, it starts and it stops with the members of the secondary. If they're not playing good, the whole team ain't going to play good. And that's going to be kind of a hard thing to do, because we saw how our pass, look, the secondary weren't all that good. The run D weren't all that good. So we have a lot of things. We got to work on a lot of things. And Rhule-Snow is a guy who can get it done. Now, look, he came from the Big 12. We understand what the Big 12 is. The Big 12 is a bunch of teams who play offense and then say, well, defense will, look. If you're going to get drafted for playing defense, you better get your stats up, because this is not going to be a team. This is all 12 teams, by the way. This ain't going to be a team where we focus on defense. But as a point of reference for Rhule-Snow, Baylor was the only team in the Big 12 to hold their opponents under 5 yards of play. And Baylor was the only one of 2 teams in the past 5 years to hold their opponents to under 20 points per game in the Big 12. So, I mean, look, there's no defense played in the Big 12, but those are stats you gotta put into context. But Rhule-Snow is a strong DC candidate. He already has rapport with Matt Rhule, and he has 38 plus years as a coach. This could be the thing right here. We gotta find out who's staying, who's leaving, who we're drafting, who we're picking up in free agency. But Rhule-Snow's 3-4 defense could work here. I know some people don't want to see 3-4 anymore, but that was when Ron Rivera and Eric Washington, who's now a defensive line coach for the Bills, that's what they were running. We'll see something different here, and we have to get the players involved to get more guys in there. But I think with Rhule-Snow, we can see something. That's how I feel about it. What do y'all know about Rhule-Snow? Do you like him? Do you not like him? What do you expect? Let me know all your thoughts in the comments below. And you already know to do with that like button.
Cheers to you, appreciate the chance. Being told y'all I been the man. Being told y'all I had the gift. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Real ones gonna recommend. Count this as another win.